Hi, my name is Carlos Mare, also known as Mare 139.
I am a sculptor, I'm a painter, legendary graffiti artist.
And I've been challenged to demonstrate graffiti in increasing levels of complexity. Graffiti is a letter-based art form, a sophisticated style of penmanship, where you give yourself a name and you embellish it with signifiers that are common in the culture. This is my interpretation of graffiti, but everyone has their own style.
Level 1, basic tag. A basic tag may seem like a simple step, but what we're focusing on is choosing a name that we're capable of stylizing.
So you have to learn those forms and those gestures and that muscle memory before you move on to the next level.
I chose the name Mare because I thought Nightmare was a cool name to have as a kid who was terrorizing the streets with my tag. But then I cut it down to Mare.
Mare? Yeah. M-E-A-R? M-A-R-E. M-A-R-E, yeah. Mar. Man.
For the next level, we're gonna take basic penmanship and make a design, a graffiti design.
Level 2, finding your own style.
We start taking the tag and start embellishing it and adding design to it, giving it character.
So something to consider about graffiti style writing. Go back and reference when you were a kid and you were learning how to write your name in straight letters. You had to learn form and balance, and then you had to learn how to write a signature. So now that signature had to have your personality and your swagger. You can take that concept over into graffiti as well. One of the traits of the Broadway elegant style is that it's round and long. It would start off nice and tight and small and round at the top and then kind of open up a little bit more in the bottom as it elongates. And that's a very unique aspect of this lettering form from the late 60s and early 70s.
In level 1, we used a basic stock cap. In level 2, we use a fat cap. Now this cap allows you to have a broad stroke when you paint your name.
Now that we've learned about hand styles, let's talk about embellishing. Level 3, embellishing a tag. There are many embellishments you can add to your tag. You could add stars, exclamation points, quotations, underscoring lines with arrows that point down. You can even put force fields around it.
With some of these elements, you're letting people know something about you.
One of the embellishments I like to use is the crown M. To me, that signifies that I'm a style master, but also that I'm crowned up from the ground up. Now that we've worked on our style a bit, let's go get up. Level 4, throw-ups, aka throwies. A big part of graffiti is getting your name up everywhere you can.
With the throw up or throwy, I condensed my name Mare, M-A-R-E, to M-E so that I can produce them quicker and faster and more abundantly. Bubble letters, also known as softies. You're supposed to do them really quick, outline them, fill them in, and move on. The numbers in a signature, like mine, Mare 139, that tells you I'm from 139th Street. So it's kind of a geotag before the term geotag in technology.
Now that we've learned about tags and throwies, let's move on to more complex forms of graffiti. Level 5, planning a masterpiece. Today I'm calling this piece a masterpiece because of how it's going to evolve from one simple drawing on paper into a magnificent painting.
It's important but not necessary to draw your outline. It's always good to have a sketch or something in mind before you apply it to the wall. In my case, I drew mine out because I wanted to have a certain kind of symmetry and balance in my piece today. Well, the inspiration for this piece came from the first letter. That really set the tone. I saw design elements there that made sense to me. The initial marks that I put on the wall were just guides for me. And in order for me to have the symmetry I was looking for, I had to make sure I knew where the parameters were on the wall. Don't worry about perfection because once you start outlining and sketching it, the paint dries fast so you can coat it again and keep coming back to perfect your piece. So the guides are just there to help you get through the process. As you get more comfortable and you start getting more creative, you lose all those guides and you start really embellishing and freely interpreting what you want.
Now that we have our initial outline, let's start giving it color. Level 6, the fill.
So once you have your basic outline, you want to fill in your piece. And generally you start with a solid color, or decide what color palette you're going to use and then start applying it accordingly. But the fill-in is really important. That's where you really start blocking out your piece on the wall. With the throwy, you'll notice how haphazardly it was filled in, very quick. With the masterpiece, I took my time with the paint. I really wanted to stick. I wanted it to be opaque. I wanted to show that I was really invested in what I was doing. One of the things about painting a masterpiece is that you got to be prepared to kind of have a dance with the wall, so to speak. There's all this muscle memory, of course, but there's a flow. Your body extends with these lines. It is a very physical act and it requires some endurance and focus. So be prepared to have a very numb hand at the end of the day. One of the things with the spray can, you have to kind of master the pressure. So this way you can determine how thin and how heavy your stroke will be.
Now that we have our letters down, we can move on to the background. Level 7, adding a background.
Background painting is important because it really sets the stage for your painting. It really gives it a home to sit on. The background gives you a sense of completion with your piece, because they really allow your name to stand out. For the background force field, I used a New York fat cap, which is a versatile cap. It allowed me to do a fine line, but also use it for broad strokes.
The colors I chose had a lot of contrast between them. The reason I chose it is because they would pop off the wall. To me, everything in graffiti is subjective and customizable. It's about finding your own style. Level 8, blends. Blending colors is a technique that allows you to really give form and shape to your letters. You can do gradations from dark to light, but also you can do highlights that really accentuate and give it body or roundness or even reflection of a light source.
The blending technique I used, I chose to do it very subtly, so it gives the letter some kind of volume, a little bit more oomph, but not too much.
So part of the technique I was using with the blue shading has a lot to do with finger pressure, and I was releasing air out of the can so I'd have a softer spray, and also the distance matters and at how fast you turn your hand when you're spraying. Now that we fill in the piece and did some blends and gradients in it, I want to come back and give it some design elements to embellish it. Level 9, design embellishments. I did some embellishment on the piece with purple dots and designs that are on the left side of the piece structure.
You can use whatever you want. There are no rules. There is a foundation, but there are no rules. You can design whatever you want, however you want within your piece. This way, it starts to bring more life to the whole production.
Level 10, the final outline.
An outline can make or break your piece. Graffiti is style writing. So your letters have to be on point. It could be a great fill-in and great colors, but your outline's important because it really defines your letter structures.
It's the most important part of the process. There are certain things you could see in an outline that's not very good, whether the line is not straight, whether there are a lot of drips. So it's all about practice and making sure your form is on point.
Colors are secondary.
Getting your outline done is one of the most important parts of your masterpiece because this really brings out your lettering style. You can paint all the beautiful colors you want and it could hide your outline, and you could be judged on it by, yes, being a nice painting, but not a good style.
It's probably the most challenging and nerve-wracking of all because you want it to be as crisp and clean and precise as possible. With the outline, I use a thin cap. That's important because it allows me to really carve out my piece with a fine line and not have the overspray or have a lot of drips. When you're putting your final outline, this is where your muscle control comes into play. This is where your muscle memory matters so that you know how to move not just your arm, but your body weight along with the shapes of your letters.
At this point, I could walk away and be done. But I want to add one more layer of complexity to really highlight my piece.
Adding highlights is subjective. It all depends on your style. Hitting the piece with the white highlight really makes it pop. It suggests something. It suggests that light is striking the piece. It gives you a sense of volume. While it's a 2D object, it makes it look 3D.
There are variations on highlights where you can do straight lines across and smaller lines intersecting it to make it look like a shine. But in my instance, I did a fast streak with a nice hazy finish at the end of it. The nice thing about giving it like a soft hazy finish, it gives it a sense of luminance and brilliance as if it was a glass surface. Level 12, the future of graffiti.
Graffiti is about getting your name up as much as possible. Now with digital graffiti, you can spread your name and your artwork throughout the internet around the whole world. You can now apply it on different platforms, from AR to VR to 3D print and into the metaverse.
The New York City subway system brought my work to millions of people. The internet brought my work to billions of people.
It has also allowed me as an artist to expand and see graffiti in very different form. And it's really important because now with virtual reality, I can draw these graffiti sculptures in space and walk around them and articulate them in very different ways that I couldn't have done before in traditional means. So let's take a look at this M. Consider that we started level 1, writing our name very straight up and down, and then gave it style. Then we modeled it in 3 dimensions in VR and output it for 3D printing. And now I can place this anywhere I want in the public space. And it could be an Easter egg for anyone who finds it. Graffiti is an ever-evolving art form. Once considered an illegal art form, is now celebrated and practiced worldwide. You can find it in museums, you could find it in advertising, you can find it in fashion, you could find it on the internet. The more you practice it, you can find your place for it and in it. The more you practice, the more you look at other artists, the more you collaborate with other artists, the better you will become. Graffiti style writing is an art form. It's a personal expression. Go out, go get up. Full disclaimer, don't get arrested.